Hey y'all, welcome back to Cajun Country Living. So today we are going to be doing something that we probably should have done like 2 years ago.
And that would be putting in our permanent heating and cooling system for this house. Now, the whole time that we have lived in this house, we have had one window unit that has heated and cooled this entire space. Now, that is with the exception of a couple months of this summer when the temperatures was exceeding 110 degrees.
Yeah, we did stick a window unit here and there just to help out with that. Now that window unit was temporary and we knew that from the start. We just kind of kept pushing this project off, but we are finally going to be able to install our
central air conditioning system. Now, we have been going back and forth on the heating and cooling because everything in this house is extremely efficient. And that's what we wanted with the heating and cooling system. But reaching out to multiple heating and cooling HVAC people, they said we had to have a minimum of a 5-ton unit and all these bells and whistles, and they're probably right to some degree. But what we found out is with that one 24,000 BTU window unit, heating and cooling in one place, we were able to keep our home warm and cool. We wasn't really interested in putting the big, huge compressor outside, which is just a leech on your power grid, along with the air handler that goes inside and all of those things, because we're eventually going to get off grid, and we know that that's going to deplete our energy during the summertime. And we're trying to reach some kind of an equilibrium. We were leaning towards mini splits. That seemed like a really good option, but we also didn't want little compressors staged all the way around the house either.
We did happen to stumble across what we think is going to be the best option for us, and it's actually kind of a mini split design, but it is a central air conditioning unit. First thing that we're going to do is actually open up all these boxes and see what we have.
The good thing about this product is if you already have an existing system, you can replace your system with this system. But, I know I've said system a lot, but we don't have anything. There are things that's not going to be included in here that we know. We have to install a disconnect for the compressor. So forth, so on, those kind of things. So,
what do we not have?
A system. A system for our system. Now that we have this Senville air conditioning unit all unboxed, man, it looks like they have not forgot anything. No stone left unturned. We have the air handler. We have a really nice looking compressor that we can mount outside that's not going to stick way out away from our house to make it unsightly, and it looks really, really nice. We have some auxiliary heat strips just in case we get in a really, really cold situation. They've supplied us with 15 feet of refrigerant tubing that's going to go from the compressor to the air handler. We have a digital thermostat. We have a remote control. We have the control wires.
And probably a lot more that we're missing, but as y'all can see here, they did not skimp whenever it comes to this product. Just real quick, I know I'm going to be saying this later in the video for y'all, and it will be linked in the description, but if y'all go on Uncle Amazon, of course, our favorite, you can find this product, and it will come with all of these items. So this is not just something that they sent us. This is actually real deal what they send in their box.
Now, as far as the outside unit goes, you can buy a pad to put this on. You can buy a bracket to mount this thing on the side of your house.
But obviously, we're not going to do that because here at Cajun Country Livin', we don't do what we typically are supposed to do. So we're going to go ahead and do a dry pour concrete pad.
The outdoor unit doesn't have to be installed in any particular orientation. You can install it based on how it best fits the area where you want it installed. In our situation, we wanted it as close as we could get to the house with the clearance that it needed to give it a nice compact look.
Probably would have thought that moving this thing would have been a little bit harder than it was, but I gave Jim the heavy side, so the compressor side, and really it wasn't bad to manhandle. We got a hold of it and just whipped her right into place.
It's just a little more awkward to move than anything because it's kind of taller than square, you know. Other than that, it really wasn't that big of a deal.
And I think if Jim goes left, I go right. And if I go right, he goes left. So we saved y'all the despair of having to listen to whose left are we going off of, or whose right are we going off of, or are we going to do a 360 or not? So
yeah, move it a little bit. Which direction? I don't know, just a little bit.
So we did get it moved safely, obviously, and now we are going to be moving on to the next steps of anchoring this thing down.
Got our disconnect box mounted on side of the house. This brings our power in, and then we're going to be tying on our power and bringing it to the unit. So far, now we have never hooked up a central air conditioning system before, so this is all new to us, but we do have some relative experience with all of these things as far as the electrical components go. And so far, this has really not been bad at all, I have to say. Now, I can't speak for any other units this style because Senville is the only unit that we've had any dealings with so far. But everything that we have read, everything that we've looked at so far, they really make it easy for the homeowner to be able to work on these things. I mean, there's diagrams everywhere. They sent us 4 or 5 different manuals, which is just loaded with information, but you really don't need it because they make this stuff so easy. If you can read and look at a picture, you put this thing together.
They must have known that we were going to be putting this on our house.
Yeah, when they designed that, oh, I bet Cajun Country Livin's going to put one of those in. We better make it ridiculously simple.
Lucky for us, this is a lot more slim and compact of an AC unit, which meant that the concrete slab was also more compact and slimmer. This concrete slab only ended up costing us $22, and it is going to be perfect, y'all. Just perfect for this Senville.
We're getting ready to anchor this compressor to the slab, and they sent this little spigot that plugs into the bottom. So we put a piece of clear tubing on it. That'll allow the condensate that comes off the compressor to drip outside of our concrete slab.
Since it's on the bottom, that means that we're going to have to mark these holes where we need to put these anchor bolts in first, right?
That is right.
Okay, then we're going to pick it up and put that little piece on.
I'm not sure about the picking up part. We'll probably scoot it around and lean it over. That sounds a little better.
Oh, this video is helping a bunch. As long as I don't do it back. It's good. I think it should be this. Also, both of our inspectors are on the job today. And Gus is getting a dirt bath, she said. Right? Giving Gus a dirt bath? So we got the vice president and the president of the supervision club.
This dry pour slab is about 3 days old. Well, today would be the 4th day. We typically don't like drilling into these things, and we like to let them sit about 7 days, but we really want to get this done. So this will be the earliest that we've ever actually drilled in and put anchor bolts into a dry pour concrete at 3 days old.
All right, 1 down, 3 to go. We do need the full depth of these holes. So before Jim has been pulling the drill bit out, he's sweeping around it because like we said, we need the full depth of that bit. I love the fact that they put handles on this thing. Woo!
Okay, let's go.
My fingers were a little slippery there. Now we're trying to figure out apparently one of the hardest things, which is which way does this rubber footing go on? Surely we can figure this out, Julie.
I think that option's going to be the winner. I like it.
So the purpose of putting these little rubber pads under it that came with the kit is because you don't want to hear that vibration all day, every day. So they really have thought about everything whenever it comes down to the nitty gritty in this. And your chicken agrees, Jimmy. If Jim's outside working, y'all, I kid you not, this chicken will come and like rub up on Jim.
Jimbo the chicken whisperer.
No, let's stick to Captain Cross.
Hey, that's why she lays those double yolk eggs. Just got to be extra, extra sweet to her.
That's why she never lays them whenever you're not here, huh? Or maybe because Lad ends up feeding them half a sack of corn every day.
We're going to get all these anchor bolts started, and then we're going to tighten them up one at a time. And you may not have to do that, but it just makes sense to me. If we need a little wiggle room somewhere, if they're already tight, we can't get any wiggle room. So we're just going to get them started like I said. I think that's going to be the best path forward for us.
Now this might be a little bit of overkill, but as y'all can tell, even today, it's really, really windy where we live. So we did decide to put this on the concrete slab. It does obviously come with these footers that have a place to put an anchor bolt in, but that does not mean that you have to go to the extent of pour a slab and do all the things like we did. It does give you the option though, since it has those holes. But like we said, you definitely don't need to be drilling them into concrete if you don't want to. But if you do, like we said, 22 bucks, not too bad. Keeps it out of the weather and definitely keeps it at a better, higher place. That way it's just not gonna have as much damage from the wet ground.
Now that we got the compressor put in place, the next thing we're going to do is put this whip in. This is a flexible, waterproof, encased number 10 wire, and this is going to go from our disconnect to here. Now, I'm not sure if that's the right order or not, but that's what we're going to do. Now, the unit didn't come with this, but we didn't have any existing service, so we ran out and picked this up, so we get it wired in. Well, I don't know who made the executive decision when this box was built. Well, let me tell you something, ma'am or sir, whoever the case may be, there's really no need to be an overachiever. So this side of the box, we got to take this knockout out, and there's usually like 2 spot welds, and on this one there's 4. So having a little difficulty getting this knockout out.
2,000 years later.
This is what the AC looks like up here. And clearly we did not want to paint around that. We would have to take the board down. We'd have to take those supports out. Don't mind the wire. That's to the internet currently. We actually haven't been able to take this window unit out all summer because it's just been too stinking hot. So I know that Jim is just as excited as I am to get this stinking eyesore out of the way. Plus that means that we can actually work on the back side of this house. So the workers finally showed up as well. Y'all remember like 2 weeks ago whenever we hatched those eggs? Look how big they've already gotten.
This Senville equipment is super adaptable. In other words, if you already have a 3-ton system and your outdoor unit goes out, you can buy this 3-ton unit from Senville and it will match up and work perfectly with the unit that you already have. One of the things that was really important to us is this is a DC inverter system, which means it runs at variable speeds. It only runs at the speed that it needs, conserving as much energy as possible. Most regular central units are either on or off, meaning that they're under max load anytime they're running.
Now this part of the whole wiring thing is super straightforward, super easy. You only have 3 wires. You have a ground and 2 hot legs. So red is going to go in this lug with the red, black is going to go in this lug with the black. And we go over here to the unit. It's also super straightforward. The red is going to go on L1, which is red. The black is going to go on L2, which is black. And the green, the ground, is going to go right here where the grounding symbol goes. And it's also a green wire. I don't know if y'all have ever seen one of these type of disconnects before or not, but if you look at the bottom, there's the contactors. So when you put it in this direction, it engages the electricity to go across. It allows the electricity to pass through. But if you pull this out and you flip it over, if you look up top, there's a negative space with no contacts. And when you want the unit to not have any possibility of electrical current going through, you put the disconnect in that way. That's the way we're going to leave it until we get done with this project. Well, getting back at it this morning, I think we're ready to make the final connections on this outside unit. Being the HVAC professionals that we are, we spent the last evening getting our refrigerant lines ran, getting the power into the unit, as y'all seen. So
and then trying to stuff it into that little PVC pipe that you see up here. I mean, don't get me wrong, it looks really nice, but I'm telling you, it was like shoving a bratwurst into a hot dog sized bun. And you know how it just it doesn't work? That was the process. So we saved y'all from having to watch that horrific probably scene. But we did get it finally put together, and now, like Jim said, it is going to be time to make the final connections.
Now, you know what they say, pretty is painful. Now, Senville sent us everything to connect this compressor to the inside unit. But the 15 feet refrigerant lines that they sent wasn't long enough for us to use in this application. So we had to make these lines that would be long enough to reach from the inside to the outside unit. Now, one thing that we have learned after a lot of research before we did that is depending on what size unit you have as to the length that you're available to have on your refrigerant lines. So we're well within spec on these, so we're going to go ahead and get them attached right now. It is recommended to torque these connections, but we don't have a torque wrench. But looking at the base, at the foot-pounds, it's really not that much. So I'm going to say about a grunt and a half, 2 grunts is going to be plenty to torque this. Now we don't have a wrench to fit that, so I'm going to use this adjustable wrench. I've called this a crescent wrench before and got scalded. So yeah, it's an adjustable wrench, not a crescent wrench if you don't have the crescent brand.
Also inside that track that runs inside is the power cord. So here is what we have left of the power cord. All we gotta do is hook this up, and I believe everything on the outside unit will be done.
Yeah, that's right. They make this so easy. I mean, they was definitely having us in mind because there are 3 wires to connect the air handler to this unit. Now, if you had an existing compressor here and you was changing this out, they also have a diagram right here to hook up your 24-volt control wires to this unit. And look how simple this is.
So which one are we following?
We're gonna follow this one right here.
And now we've made it to the upstairs dungeon. Dun, dun, dun. No, this is just where we have our air handler inside. So we're up in the attic, and this is where we decided to go ahead and put our air handler at, as you can tell. And we have started to work just roughly on the air ducts, as you can see. Jim went ahead and formed up this air plenum, I believe. Is that how you say that? Well, he sent in the specs for it and had it made so that way we could hook it up straight into this air handler. Now we're just gonna be doing exactly what we're doing outside, which was connecting in the 2 refrigerant lines. Okay, before we do this, whenever this was outside, I guess that the cats had walked across.
It's really custom. It's just custom artwork. That's
Yeah,
all that is.
one of a kind.
This air handler comes from the factory under a nitrogen purge. That's to make sure that it stays absolutely dry, no contaminants gets in your coils, nothing like that. So if there's no issue with these coils, whenever we take these 2 caps off, you should hear air coming out of it, which is just nitrogen. Oh yeah. The refrigerant lines that comes with this unit, like right in this area, they're kind of spiral wound, so they're really easy to mold and conform to what you need. These are not. These are straight tubing. That's the reason these lines don't look as pretty as the ones that they send us, but it's what we had to do.
I like them. Very fitting to us, isn't it?
They could have probably looked worse, but if we had tubing benders and everything that we needed to really make it look pretty, but I don't really think that we're going to have company, come in and go in our attic and say, man, your refrigerant lines are really less than desirable.
This might look kind of strange to y'all because it is running horizontal instead of vertical, but one of the really cool things about this product is it's actually made to run horizontal or vertical. I'll show y'all in a second how the drain lines are set up just for that reason, but that is why we actually put it upstairs, because we knew that it'd fit right up against the side of this wall that we've got up here, and we love the fact that we were able to run it this horizontal length and knew that we'd have good access to it up here.
So as of right now, the way we have this thing set up, it's going to suck air into this end and blow the air out of that end. So the way it's set up now, we're going to be using this low point drain as a drain to get rid of the condensation off of the coils. But if you take this thing and stand it straight up, you'd be using this low point drain. This is extremely versatile because we're having the air go in this direction. You could stand it straight up and you could have the air going in that direction, or you could take this panel off, slide these coils out, flip them straight over, then you'd be set up to be able to run your air in a totally different direction and still be able to drain your condensate off of your coils, whether you stood it up or down. So your airflow could go up, your airflow could go down, your airflow could go left, your airflow can go right. Just depends on which direction you want it. A maximum airflow directional control hose. Now, if you're wondering why we have this thing sitting on this little 2x4 platform that we built, it's because our little emergency drain pan is being built right now and it's not here. So the dimensions of what we have going on here, we should be able to slide this out and slide our drain pan with the feet up underneath this unit. And we're not going to have a return air system on here because we don't need it. The ceiling, well, roof structure is spray foam insulation. We're just going to put an access vent in the ceiling of each room in the house. That way the air coming out of each room returning back to this unit is going to condition the air in this attic and keep it somewhat cool up here.
I'm so glad that you like to do this kind of stuff.
Well, I like to do it especially when it's easy. I mean, this is pretty straightforward. We had blue on L1, we had brown, pink. I don't know what color that is really, but we had that on L2, and this is our ground. So it's pretty, really easy to do. We did leave a lot of extra wire in here. I'm not anticipating having any problems, but if we do in the future, it's always better to have extra wire than no extra wire. Liddy got the vacuum pump running. We're just gonna let it run for a few minutes. It's almost showing around 30 inches of vacuum right now. Once it gets to there, we're gonna run it probably 5 more minutes and lock it in. We're gonna let it sit there for probably 20 minutes and make sure that the vacuum doesn't bleed off, so we know that we don't have a leak. We've got it locked in. It's right at 30 inches of vacuum. That's about as much as we could get out of it. We kind of looked out on this deal though. We didn't have this manifold gauge or this vacuum pump, but our family members did. So we reached out around the neighborhood. We was able to scrounge up enough parts. The only thing that they didn't have were these little adapters. And I mean, we got these off Amazon for like $8. So it wasn't too big of a deal. So if it cost us $8 to get the refrigeration put in this line, I think we're in pretty good shape. Vacuum's been home for about 15 or 20 minutes, so I'm assuming that we're not going to have any kind of leaks. Now this compressor comes charged with the amount of refrigerant that you need. So what we're going to do is take this little cap off, and that's how you access the valve. And I'm just going to crack it open and let enough pressure come in so it's positive pressure on this line.
Y'all, it is 95 degrees today. This unit has been running for 3 minutes and it's already pumping out 46-degree cold air.